Good morning, everyone. This is Ron. It is Saturday morning. I hope and trust you've had a great week. Uh, I know it's been hot, very hot week, very humid, but here we are again, Saturday. Time seems to be speeding up or going by fast as we talk about all the time. But any questions? Any questions or comments? I don't remember. I usually try to listen to a little bit of the video uh, from the last session, and I did not get a chance to. I think we were still kind of winding up sacrifice and answering questions, and understanding that we are the sacrifices that the scripture talks about. Uh, Sounds very easy. It sounds very elementary, that I have to give up something, give up self. But that's a daunting task. It's not something that is easy. Uh, the things we value are important to us, and it is what makes us who we are. Or are we really? How much of that are we willing to relinquish, and not just relinquish, but to allow to die, so that we can become uh, refreshed and operate and see things from our soulful self, from our spiritual eye. So anyway, though, I don't recall exactly what we discussed Monday, but if anyone does and would like to recap us, please feel free. Or if you have any questions, please feel free.
Hey, Ron, this is Charles.
Yes. Hey, Charles, how you
I
doing
have
this
a
morning?
question. I'm doing good. I have a question, but it ain't to the lesson that we've been talking about. It's about
Okay.
something else.
Okay.
When Jesus died, where did he go for 3 days? I remember it was told that he went to Sheol and freed the captives and all that right there. But actually, everybody been interpreting the Bible different, and we've been hearing different stories as we was growing up as kids. And now, I mean, I'm finding out everything I had learned wasn't the right way of knowing what the Bible says. So tell me what happened to him in them 3 days.
Good question, Charles. Pastor, are you on?
I am.
Okay. Can you help us with that? I'm going to go back and try to look it up. Charles, do you remember what verses you were in?
I hadn't read in the verse. I always, when we studied the Bible and stuff, I already heard people say that he went to Sheol and freed the captives and all this. But I really want to understand what did he did in them 3 days.
Excuse me. I was looking for the Aramaic understanding of what hell is supposed to be, or is rather. And I can't remember where I read it, but I read it this week because it had hell and Sheol together. So if you give me if we can continue rather, and give me a couple of minutes, I'll get back with you. Okay.
Okay. Charles, that reminds me, you have another question on the table that I've been looking at too, that we're going to address. I just saw the question you asked about the woman being turned to a pillow of salt. One question leads to another question. So I've been looking at that as well to discuss it, because I think that has a lot of information in it, and it also points to us, shows us a lot of where we are right now. So, but thank you for your question. And as Pastor said, give him a few minutes, and we'll try to come back to that. Okay.
All right.
Ron, I have a question.
Is there any? Yes, ma'am.
Someone someone mentioned about Lot's wife turned into a pillow of salt?
Uh-huh.
I had that same question for this morning. And what does
Okay,
it?
that was, yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you were finished up. Go ahead.
No, I'm done. I was just saying, and what, I mean, I really had that thought about that all week. And how does that apply to us now?
Okay. Like I said, there's a lot around that, and I wanted to kind of start at the first of that chapter to get into it. So I was kind of preparing something so we could discuss it. But basically, what that is saying is a battle that Lot was having inside of him. All of those characters in there, the men sitting at the gate, the angels, all of that is dealing with Lot. All that is dealing with Evelyn. All that is dealing with Charles. All that is dealing with the internalness of Ron. So what it is him looking at what he is leaving behind. This is what my life has become. I've become comfortable in these gates. So it is his spiritual essence that turns around, because that is something that he values. It is not like this woman separated from him that is being punished. It is saying that there is a part of us that sees truth. The femininity there, as we talk about the spiritual essence of who he is, sees truth. He understands the path that he's on, but yet he turns. He turns around because that's where his value is. And although he's leaving, he cannot fully release it. So the pillow represents a foundation. The pillow represents, this is firm, something that is firm in him. This is something that he's really, really wrestling with. The salt means I'm preserving this. This is something that is steadfast in me, that I still need to deal with some. And that's why I say it deals with us. What are we willing to relinquish, and what valuable things do we still try to hold on to? Okay? That's it in a nutshell, tying all the rest of the verses together.
So is it us preserving the unripened thoughts, holding on to the unripened thoughts that we have?
Okay, let's yes, in essence, yes, but it's there are things inside of all of us that we value, from religion, and all of it deals with religion. The whole world deals with religion. There is something that we are value to the point where we worship it. So it may be, I've heard you sing before, it may be your voice. It may be you not wanting to leave being on programs at churches. It may be the authority Barb talked about the other day, giving up that title on her job. There are things that we battle with because they have defined us. We have allowed them to define us as we live in this world. So it can be anything. Evelyn, it could be your anger. Nobody talks to me like that. Who she thinks? Did she think she was going to get away with that? There are things that we value in us that we don't know about until we study these things, and we uproot them. And then it gives you a chance to look at where you are. So when we talk about the meditation, when we get off the phone, we meditate or however you do it, that is not only going over what we discussed and talking about these things, how it affects us collectively as a community, but how does it affect us individually? So when we talk about this is where we are, this helps us to see ourselves. That's the kind of things we're talking about. What am I still holding on to? What am I willing to release? Am I have publicly said it, I said with my voice, I have relinquished my free will. But internally, does my soul do that? Do I still value the things I see with my eyes? Or do I value the things I see with my eye? So that battle is a continuous thing inside of us. Can somebody else help me and maybe see it a little clearer?
Hey, this is Nick. Can you hear me okay?
Hey, Nick, yes.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say, yeah, I agree. And one of the things I was thinking of was that in there is no water in salt, or no sort of life in the pillar of salt. I think the concept that is describing, it is like a calcification, a rigidity, a lack of life. And I very much agree the idea that it has to do with holding on to those things that are spiritually dead, despite having been in the process of moving towards life. So it's a regression in a lot of ways. Anyway, I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
So thank you. I like that. Things that are spiritually dead. That brings a lot of clarity.
I have a question. This is Vermel. So
Evelyn, Vermel, is it on the same lines? Listen, can I see if Evelyn is okay with her question?
yeah, sure.
I am, Ron. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Nick.
You good? Okay. Thank you. Okay, Vermel, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I think it's along the same lines as Evelyn. So does the pillar of salt, is that similar to dried up bones?
It has been a while since I read that scripture, but just off the top of my head, that the lifelessness part of it, yes.
Okay.
I can't remember the rest of the scripture around those, so I don't readily know what that was saying without looking at it. But yes, the lifelessness. That's what religion is, y'all. It has no life. That's the message in it. It has no life. It can carry us nowhere. Other than the rewards that we think we receive in the earth, it has no rewards to it at all. So,
Ron, to address the question about dry bones,
yes, sir.
it speaks to exactly the same thing in spiritually dead. And that particular scripture is the vision of one of the prophets. And that vision of the prophet was, he said that, and the Lord took me to the valley filled with dry bones, which means dead or death, and said, breathe on them. And when the Spirit was breathed on them, they began to move towards each other, and they began to reconnect to the places and joints where they were supposed to be, and then those bones were covered with skin, meaning that it is your embracing the reality of the Spirit that brings you to makes you have a life for spirituality. In other words, it gives you life. That dead, simply because you're spiritually dead does not mean that you cannot be spiritually alive. And that's an illustration of having been brought back to a spiritual life. So it's pretty much the same thing. Not pretty much, it is the same thing. The difference is the pillar of salt. I don't see where it came back to life. I'm done.
Thank you.
I have Charles' question too.
Michelle, are you good with that?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pastor.
Yeah, Charles asked that question about hell, right? And I knew I had read it during the course of the week. Excuse me. First of all, the word hell does not appear in the Bible at all. The whole concept of hellfire, a place where people are continuously tortured by God, does not appear in the Bible at all. So what happened is the word that was translated as hell came from a word that means a hidden place. However, if it had been translated properly, Sheol speaks of talks about to be still or to be quiet or to be quietened. The Hebrews believe that there was a place beneath the earth where those good and bad remain quiet and inactive. And that was supposed to last until the day of judgment. However, the idea of Sheol, speaks to a quiet place in you. It speaks about being in a place of solitude. It speaks to quieting the noises inside of you. And in the New Testament, it does not use Sheol very often. It's what is it, Guyana? That's what Jesus used mostly, which means that it was a place where the rubbish was burned outside of the gates of Jerusalem. But the meaning of Guyana spiritually speaks to regret, remorse, and having mental anguish about something that you did or something that was done to you. So if I take all of that and put it together, the idea of remorse and regret is not only what someone has done to you or what you've done, it also can be regret from the times that you were spiritually dead, the things that you ignored or the things you rebuffed instead of embracing. And when you get to that quiet place within yourself, then you can quieten the mental anguish that you're having. You can deal with the regrets in your life, and once you do that and embrace spirituality, embrace the spirit of a womb, it's at that point that things inside of you are quiet and settled. So there is nothing in the scriptures that speaks to torture. This is a religious concept that is foreign to the Bible. There is no place beneath the earth where you are tortured. And when it talks about Jesus going to Sheol, it talks about Jesus going to a quiet place. And when it talks about people being released from Sheol, the saints walk the streets of Jerusalem, that's speaking to Jesus. After Jesus' death, Jesus became one with all of the unseen, meaning that his energy became one with the energy of everyone who had transitioned this earth, the righteous and the unrighteous. So if we look at it from that perspective, then we cannot avoid looking at Revelation, where it talks about death and hell was cast into the fire. Gehenna and death were cast into the fire, is what it says. So what it's actually saying is that our concept of death and all the regrets and remorse that we have has been purified. So Jesus having gone to that place means that Jesus became one with a boom, and everything that had taken place in his life that he had regrets about or that he had remorse about, all of these things had taken place. They were purified and the purification came after he exited his body. And the 3 days speaks to the divinity, the divine space that Jesus occupied after he left his body. And he was able to return in that he came back in physical form, and they saw him as he was. There are those who believe that was a vision that people had of him being present. However, I tend to believe that, I choose to believe that it was not a vision as much as it was a message telling us that it is possible to reach the pinnacle of spirituality and still function in bodily form in this earth. It doesn't mean that once you exit this body that you have to leave forever, as did Elijah until he met on the mountain, as Enoch was no more. Those kinds of things, all of those are wrapped up in the understanding of Sheol and Gehenna. It's wrapped up, excuse me, in the understanding of what all of us are going to go through, are going to have to embrace at some point in our lives. And we will, even if we have to go through the purification first. You can do it on earth, or you can do it later on after you escape this body in a spiritual way. And I know I've said a lot. However, I'm hoping that it was clear enough for you to understand that hell does not exist, and there's nothing in the scripture that says it does. I'm done.
Charles, how you feel about that?
I feel a little easy about it because we was always taught that he went to hell and he went to hell for 3 days and he did a lot of stuff while he was in hell, freed the captain and all that. I want to know exactly what went on because, you know, everything that we've been taught, it wasn't all the truth, or it wasn't none of the truth in some cases. So I just thank Rep for bringing that out and making it clear.
You're quite welcome, and thank you for bringing it up. Now, I don't take what I said. I don't know exactly what happened. All I know is what those words spoke to, what they mean. And all I know is the word hell does not appear in the original text. Hell in the original text hell in the Bible that we read from means a hidden place. It has nothing to do with a place of repose or quietness, okay? Thank you.
Thank you too, Pastor.
Okay. Good question. Anyone else? Is that clear to everyone else? Do you have any questions or follow-up thoughts on what Pastor just said? Okay. Is there any other questions that we may have?
Yes, Ron, this is Kathy. See, Kathy.
Hey, Kathy.
Genesis 1:26, it says, and God said, let us make man in our image. Why did he say our if he was the only one that was alive at that time in the creation? So why did he say our instead of just saying create in my image?
Because, I'm sorry, Ron, go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead.
Because it said God and Elohim. Elohim is plural. There has always been a plurality of the Creator. The difference is that when Genesis speaks, it's talking about the existence of multiple gods before those spirits were encased. Before those spirits rather joined with a physical body. So what I'm saying in essence is this: if you take a jar and you put a top on that jar, inside of that jar is air. And if you can see that inside that jar as being spirit, then the plurality of Elohim is encased in each of us in our bodily form. So that's the simple understanding that I have of this in our image and likeness. Our meaning every aspect of Elohim is within each one of us. Does that help you, Kathy? And if someone can clean that up for me, help me with that, sharpen it, please do so.
Yes, I might sharpen it a little more.
Can I try?
Of course.
Kathy, I kind of think of it like when Sage says if you take a drop of water from the ocean, it still contains all the essence of the ocean, even if it is in that bottle by itself. It contains all the aspects of that ocean in that one drop of water. Is that about right, Sage?
That's dead on. Yeah, that's it. Every aspect of the ocean, of the ocean is in a drop of water. And if we are that glass, and every aspect of the Creator is in us.
Okay.
There was never a belief in that Elohim was a single God, just one entity. There was never that belief until the English translations of the scriptures came into existence.
I'm getting some confusing thoughts here. Are you talking about many gods? Are you talking about multiple aspects of energy?
Multiple aspects of the Creator. The multiplicity of those aspects of the Creator is in each of us.
Okay. And what we do is we take an aspect of that energy and we make it a God potentially. We make with and renounce everything else that has to do any other aspects of that energy. So, for instance, in religion, we can take one aspect of a judgmental God and create a religion around that one particular aspect, rather than understanding that that aspect of judgment is balanced by the aspect of mercy. So we tend to try to make a pillar of salt, if you will, of an aspect in our image, rather than it being part of the spiritual entity of multiple aspects of the Creator. I don't know if that was clear, but I thought it wasn't in my mind when I said it.
It's clear to me. I think that's one of the. I don't think I know. That's one of the reasons that we have not seen manifested thing that we've been searching so long for. That thing called balance. Is because we have not really embraced the wholeness of who we are. And what I'm saying is that if we were to totally embrace, sincerely embrace who we are, and stop the intellectual sparring everything we can to cease judging a people and take every opportunity to remind ourselves that the battle is not ours in terms of being a human battle. If we were to do that and embrace truth for what it really is, then that's what makes all of us one. I do believe that we are where we need to be. We just have not embraced it. I also believe that this whole idea of COVID has done something for us that we have not realized, and that is COVID has brought us together as one, as opposed to being three. And in bringing us together as one, it has shown us the power, if we stop seeing each other as foundation, as great new faith, as the class on Monday nights, if we just see ourselves as spiritual beings, not just physical beings, but spiritual beings occupying a physical space, then we will see the balance, the harmony that's already in existence. The major problem with seeing that is that we don't understand what salvation really is. When we talk about salvation meaning deliverance, what does that mean? What does deliverance look like? What is being delivered? What is being freed? Our mind is being freed. Deliverance speaks to taking the shackles off our mind. And the shackles of our minds are our eyes, our ears, the things that we see with our eyes, the things that we hear with our physical ears, are the things that keeps our mind shackled. And our mind is extremely selfish. It wants to do what it wants to do and say what it wants to say and guide us to the place where it wants to be based upon what we see with our eyes. Deliverance speaks to relying totally on the soul. And every time that a thought comes into our mind about something that is antithetical, we automatically let it flow through. We don't dwell on it, we let it flow through. If you don't like someone and you are talking to someone about how much you dislike this person or these people, then what you are doing is adhering to the bondage of your mind, as opposed to allowing your soul to speak in a spiritual way that is not negative at all. An example is when Jesus said that the food of Israel is not for the dogs or something like that. And the lady said, even the dog eats the crumbs from the table. So what's being said here, the message is this: no matter, no matter how much you understand, you are obligated to share what you see with mankind. That's what we're doing right now. And we cannot limit who we share it with, because the woman who said that represents a womb. And even the crumbs is birthed into something different than what they were on the table. When they fell from the table, meaning that the truth is birthed from the tidbits of truth that people pick up around the fringes of what's being taught. When that happens, that does happen, and when we recognize that happens all of the time, then we begin to free our minds. And I want you to understand something, there is no God out there anywhere who's going to free your mind. There is no person on this earth who can free your mind. No one can do that except you and your desire to be spiritually alive, your desire to be one with everyone and everything on this earth. The indigenous people of this world, before invasion, the indigenous people of this world had a relationship with the universe. The reason they were able to master the earth and to understand the earth for healing versus those that were killed is because of the unicity they had with the universe, which gave them the understanding of what it means to conquer this earth or to dominate this earth. The meaning, dominating, not meaning to destroy it or be selfish about it. So we are our own captors. And until we free our minds from the elements of this earth existence, and I don't mean, I'm not saying that things about this earth do not are not pertinent, are not necessary. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it should not be your priority. When spirituality becomes our priority, that is when the manifestation of what we're searching for will manifest in this earth. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You just talked about two things. You talked about the idea of a captor, but implied in that was the idea of the captor is a captive of something. In other words, we are both, and that's that duality that we can be. We are both the captor and the captive, and the issue is finding the balance in that, so that we are. I don't want to say neither, because something captures my attention, whether it's spiritual or whether it's not fit spiritual. You follow what I'm saying? It's something captures me. I'm captive of something.
Right. You go be captive of something.
So
The question is,
sorry.
I said you are going to be captured by something. The question is, what do you allow yourself to be captured by? If you see a book on quantum physics, if you're not interested in that, you're not captured by it. You're not captured by it. If you see a book that captures your attention, you've made a choice what you're going to be captured by. And all I'm saying is this: we can be in this world, but not of this world. We can be in this world and not be captivated by this world. We can be in this physical realm and not be captives of physicality. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Barbara Jean?
Yeah, it does.
So you're just talking about balance, aren't you?
Yes. But see, balance is not equality. Balance is functionality. You have 2 children, and the way you balance the love and attention that you give those 2 children is based upon their personality. So you don't do the same for one as you do for the other, but it does not mean you mistreating one and treating the other better. It simply means that you know that they have different personalities, you know that they respond in different ways. So the balance in that is in recognizing who they are and speaking to them and challenging them in different ways. Does that make sense, Audrey?
Yes, and as you get to know them as they change, get moving from a toddler to a teenager to an adult, you still find ways to interact with them in the way that you know them.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. And that's balance.
So we come full circle.
In our minds, when we talk about balance, in our minds, we have a tendency to believe that everything is going to be alike and everyone is going to think the same. That's not true.
So, Pastor, we've come full circle from what we said earlier. I think the statement was we haven't embraced our own wholeness, and so that's why it's difficult to see the balance manifested. But the truth is, balance is manifested all around us. If we choose to see it. And so balance is already here. All of the upheaval we see in the chaos, that's part of the process of balancing. And what captivates me is not the chaos, but where we are beyond the chaos, and setting that vision of where we are beyond the chaos. So balance is here. Balance is being manifested in many different ways, not just one way.
I agree with that. I agree with that. However, we can't see that manifestation if we choose not to.
Right.
If we don't know what balance feels like, if we can't be in harmony with ourselves, if we have all of this noise in us and we don't know how to quiet that noise, if we are always snapping at someone, or if we are saying that you're not going to walk all over me, or you're not going to get away with that. So those kinds of things are blinders to this concept that we're talking about. And if we're blinded because of our attitude towards humanity, then how can we expect to see a manifestation of the unicity or the oneness that humanity is? When we don't even know what it feels like in us. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes. It's like that. It's like that kind of shades our perspective. It's like a like looking from the inside out. There's some blinds that are closed in a sense from the inside out, and only we can open those blinds. So yeah, until we balance ourselves, our perception of what balance is unripe.
Right. You know, this morning I was going to talk about Luke 9, where it talks about the transfiguration, what that really means. If Peter, James, and John, being there on that mount, I'll deal with that later. Anyway, being there on that mount, their eyes, Peter's eyes anyway, were partially open, but he didn't understand how to translate what he was seeing, and he did it from his mind when he said, "Let's build what was an altar in remembrance of each one of Moses and Jesus and Elijah." when they were there in the upper room, that's when their eye was open to the extent that they were able to move beyond a physical, material interpretation of what they were being shown to seeing it strictly from a spiritual perspective. And when our eye is open, and I do believe it is, the extent to which it is open and able to see is determined by us. How much are we willing to embrace? How open are we? How willing are we to think outside of the box? How willing are we to accept what's true, what's real? How willing are we to do that? That determines the extent to which your eye is open. That determines whether or not you're going to have scales over your eye, or whether or not you're going to continue to open it by virtue of thinking and functioning and processing beyond what you are commonly accustomed to. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I just had a thought. Good morning, this is Audrey. Getting back to Kathy's question about why did the Creator say, let us make man in our image? And I don't know exactly how to say this, but when the Creator's looking at things from his mind, and I don't mean that like our mind, because it's much greater than that, more expansive than that. But when the Creator looks at us, he knows us from even before our life began. He knows the spiritual part of us. So it sees from the beginning to the end. So in that particular mindset, it can say, let us make man in our image. Because of that, knowing the beginning and the end. And knowing that our spiritual selves are part of the Creator, and has always been a part of the Creator, and always will be a part of the Creator. So when he says, let us make man in our image, it's because of that long range vision of knowing us, knowing who we are and what we would be from the beginning. Does that make sense?
I think so. But I wanted to add to that as well. I don't think it's as abstract as we are making it out to be. The word Elohim is plural because, as Pastor Richard was saying, many beings were involved in that decision. In the same way that we right now are physically manifested aspects of the Creator, so were we before we were physically manifested. So there were many beings present as a result of the process of creation before those beings became physically manifest. The Elohim are us, who and what we are, in part before we chose to physically manifest. So it's literal in a sense to say that there were many beings, and that the word is plural. There were many gods. That's us, or all beings of creation. And it is also true to say that they were manifest from the Creator, which is sort of absolute unity. Or maybe the word absolute is not a good one to use, but it is the singularness that produces multiplicity, and the multiplicity in realizing its own source and what it is, remembers how to recreate that unity of its own source. So it's not some, you know, how there's the concept of the Trinity in Christianity, which is a little bit weird to think about, but in the sense that they say, oh, it's one being, but it's actually three. It's a little bit more literal in that sense that it is speaking to the multiplicity of what was created, or the beings that emanated forth from the creator. But it is also speaking to the source of unity that we all are attempting to remember. So I hope that made sense anyway. Thank you.
It does. Any questions before I want to add to that, but are there any questions before?
I have one. So was it just talking about let us make, was it this man out of our in our image and likeness? Because it was one before that one. So is that what it's saying? That's yeah.
Actually, it's actually describing the essence and the energy of Adam. This thing that we made a proper name is simply a word that speaks about what is coursing through it, what's moving through it, as in blood moves through your body. But it's talking about this entity that was created for the express purpose of the expressive of the flow, the fluidity of Elohim. It moves like the wind. That's what this entity was created to be. And that's create them male and female has nothing to do with a male's body and a female's body. That was speaking directly about the feminine and masculine energy that would this entity are engendered. And with this having been done, it is at a period of not time, but there was how can I put this? There was a period when this entity was 100% spiritual, whether it was a nanosecond or not, and then this body was created in a physical sense, as explained in the 3rd chapter of Genesis. However, suppose for a moment that if we are greedy, if we are murderous, that is still spiritual, because we are spirit. But it's spiritual in a way of dysfunctionality. And when we are in search of truth, we are entering the place where the knowledge of life, spiritual life, exists. The life without the friction between mankind. A life without the separateness that we see with our eyes today. Suppose that we are spiritual regardless of what we do. Even when we are being guided by our eyes, that's a spiritual thing, because we are spirit. And I say that because what came to my mind is there is the body there is no word in the Aramaic or the Hebrew for a living body. The body is referenced as a corpse, something that's already dead, but is being moved around, is being kept in this earth by us, meaning the breath, the spirit. The moment the spirit leaves, the body decays. So that being the case, this is a corpse. Then would it not be that regardless of how we process or what we do is still spiritual, it's just one of dysfunctionality and one of functionality, or one of the tree of knowledge of good and evil and one of the tree of life? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, it does make sense. It even takes me back to the original question, as Audrey just said, let us make man. Suppose part of the us was man himself.
Suppose we are making man.
Exactly. What if we are the us and we are the our? Think about it in two examples. I'm thinking of. One is we've all known somebody we've grown up with and say, where did he get that from? Why does he act like that? Because he has the right to be the image he wants to be who he wants to be. So he has a right to create himself. He has a right to be a part of that process. The other example of that is when we make the turn, as you said, it is our decision in making the turn, to turn to look for truth. I was trying to remember the scriptures. It's in Proverbs somewhere where God talks to wisdom and says, you were with me from the beginning. And if you think about it from that perspective, there's no spiritualness or no kind of truth that comes into the earth that does not come through wisdom. That is the portal that it comes through. And all of it comes through to man dying. It comes through death. Without death, there is no wisdom. Because if I don't die, if I don't let that part of that creation that I made die, that I gain no understanding of spiritual things. So the hour, as you were just saying, or at least a part of what I got out of what you're saying, I think is man. I think no matter what man does, it is a spiritualness. And he may be evil. He may do darkened things out of lack of understanding, but eventually he comes back around. Everyone has to take their own path. So it is all spiritual, but it leads him back to truth, hopefully, at some point or another. I hope that made sense.
Well, I think we're creating more than just us. I believe that if we are in the image and likeness, and we are, then we have to create Adam in this earth, meaning that we walking around with these bodies. The thing that we are creating is opportunities to free our minds and be guided by our soul. And when we talk about bringing misogyny to an end, when we talk about bringing racism to an end, we are talking about repurposing the energy that has been used to perpetuate those things. And in doing so, are we not creating a mindset that is more tuned to the soul than it is to the mindset that man has created for itself? Does that make sense? Does anyone understand what you said?
Yeah. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Seems to me what you're also talking about is the fact that the creator was not just speaking to the Adam, but he was speaking to the Adam for the ages, all mankind from Adam to now, when he's saying, let us make man in our image, because he's talking about the spiritual part of it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does.
So-
I see the way I see it. If we can see it in our minds, excuse me. We have this huge village that we have built, and once we constructed this village, then we call it Earth. And the consciousness of the people we put in that village is the focus is on how to survive in this earth, in this village. And deep inside of them is an understanding of knowing that they are spiritual. And within the confines of this village, the people have a choice to make, whether or not they're going to live in harmony within that village, or whether they are going to be selfish or greedy and take what they want and make every effort to hold on to everything that it takes for survival in that village, depriving others of that opportunity. If we take that and expand it to the earth itself, then these bodies were put in this village, in this earth, because this is the opportunity for Adam in this physical earth to create spiritually as the Creator brought us into existence in a spiritual form. Suppose that our spiritual creation is, as I said earlier, dispensing with the idea of misogyny, racism, all the other isms, religion, all these things that divides us. And that in itself, as we say, make it as above, so is as above, so is below. Suppose this is ours to bring to a spiritual place of existence, no different this was prior to these bodies that we were put in. And this is the thing that makes us, this is the thing that happens when we fully embrace that we are Elohim and stop seeing ourselves as mere men. There is no instance where Jesus saw himself as a mere man, yet there are instances where he saw himself as a physical human. In every instance, we must see ourselves beyond a man or a woman in terms of physicality. And we are to create that in this earth. And that is the thing that we talk about as being balance and harmony manifested. I'm done. I hope I'm not confusing the subject. I guess the bottom line is this. If we are God, if we are Elohim, then what is the purpose for being Elohim? What do we know about Elohim? What did Elohim do? Elohim created space for life as we see it now to exist. And the existence of it is chaos and order. And it's up to us to bring order to this chaos. Does that make sense?
I have a question. Y'all never did answer. I don't know if you answered it or not. I'm still processing what's being said, but I had asked, when you said, let us make man in our image, was it this kind of man, the atom? Because if we've been creating since beginning, there had to be other creation before this kind of man. So yes. Is it?
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear what you were saying. Could anyone else hear what she was saying?
You want me to repeat it?
Yeah, I could hear it.
Okay.
She was asking whether or not, when it says Elohim wants to create man in its own image, whether this particular man is what they're referring to as distinct from other kinds of human creations. So was it referring to the Adam that we experience or know as the sort of way humanity became manifest in the physical this time, as opposed to some other time when it could have been something else? I believe that's more the man that they sought to create was a particular type of human being, or to place the human consciousness into a new realm that is the physical. But it's more, I believe, archetypal. It's more of a blueprint. So there may well have been, well, in the case of what we know here on this planet, that refers, I believe, to the first time man became present in physical and the material experience. There may well have been other times, but I believe it all functions the same way, if that makes sense. So even if there were other periods where man became manifest on this village, like we refer to the earth as our place of learning, the process by which that happens, as well as the intent, is the same. And so the opportunity, as well as the need to grow spiritually and evolve, is the same. But I believe it's more archetypal in what it is describing. It is not necessarily this Adam as opposed to some other, or some other possibility of creation, but rather the fundamental nature of what the creation of man or human beings in the physical experience is, where that came from, and sort of where that eventually will lead as a result of where it came from. Thank you.
I don't know. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask if it helped her with this answer question. That's all.
It does. I heard him, and yeah, it does help me, and I'm still processing, but I do know that there were a lot of things that were not put in the Bible, a lot was left out. So I'm just gonna go on for right now what he just said, which does bring clarity to my question. But I'm quite sure I'll have another one. Not today, but it's something I will be processing after I get off the phone. Thank you.
Okay.
I guess my hearing, seeing things that simplified in my mind. I think of a couples and they love each other and they find out that they're coming together, they're pregnant, and they want nothing but the best for their baby, and their thoughts go from physically being healthy to mentally and everything that life has to offer. They hope that their baby has opportunity to see it. The same way in a spiritual sense, that if we look at us and I guess looking at Evelyn's question, Ish and Esau were spiritual essence of balance and what that looks like and how it comes out and what it becomes has a lot to do with us and the decisions that we make. So I think with it being let us make man, I think that is all spiritual and talking about spirit, and it is inclusive of everything, every aspect of man, the feminine and masculine part of it, and anything that has developed from that or moved in one way or another. It is done by the individual person and what his value, his or her values are. So that's kind of how I see it. As we were saying, any and everything is available, and balance has always been available. Just that not something that we have been able to see, and up until now, suppose that all of mankind and its function and its dysfunction has been moving us to this place that we can gain understanding. And that is the unity in the community is at work, and maybe we just don't see it from that aspect. So anyway, I don't know if that helps or hurts or whatever. But thank you.
I think that we are here for the purpose of bringing harmony. Not bringing. I'm sorry. Seeing the harmony that exists without the pressures of the isms that we talk about. I don't think we will be moving in the spiritual direction anyway. Mankind have always sought to be balanced, where certain groups of people on this earth has always sought balance, or to see everyone taken care of, to see everyone getting along, but have in most recent years looked for it in the wrong places. They have not looked for it in the scriptures. They have not looked for it spiritually. They have always sought to see it through governmental entities, to receive it rather through governmental entities. If everyone who is poor without a home, but to be given a home, and everyone was able to physically supply their needs, we still would not have harmony unless we wouldn't see the harmony that exists unless we become aware of who we are. Because there has been a major rift in the efforts to see that harmony. And now it has become a part of the mindset of man. So regardless of what we do from our minds to bring about this quote unquote balance or harmony, it will not last unless it comes by way of embracing the spiritual essence of who we are. Does that make sense?
So you speak to the purpose of the chaos.
Yes.
Yes. And that was what I was saying. Yet when the ocean swells and causes floods, at some part of the world, the ocean is calm. All of it doesn't rage at the same time. But all of it has a purpose. And when we look at it, when wisdom shows you the overall picture, you understand and how to put that all in perspective. If it were not for the swells, if it were not for the chaos and the brutality that we've seen, we may not be on this phone. If the African was accepted to be who he is, what reason, to a degree, because without the Creator, as you say, it will not last. So it takes someone who sees things from a different vantage point to see that this won't last, and there needs to be some other effort made to calm the swells of the ocean. And that's where we are. But all of it moves in concert. And as bad as that sounds, I think it has some truth to it. And I'm still looking at Evelyn's part of that as was he talking about all of mankind? Because I think it was. I think it's talking about the totality of the spirituality of everything that man could be. And I hope I'm not being confusing, kind of thinking out loud.
I have a comment, Ron. Last week, I think, Ramel and I was at the table talking, and I was telling her how I feel like screaming. And I think now that we talk, what brought that feeling to me is the fact of what has happened in Maui, in Hawaii. To me, that's the straw that broke the camel back. I know that there are natural disasters all over the world, but to me, that really hit me hard. For that Caucasian concept to try to destroy, to take these people's land. I have been feeling this way for a long time, ever since that happened, I'll say. And I try to shake it, but I cannot, because I'm tired of what's happening in the universe. And I know we have a lot to do with it. And when I sat with her, after we started talking about stuff, I felt better. It's like she took away what I was feeling, but this feeling keeps coming back. And it just hurt because I'm tired of what's happening. And I know this too will pass. I know these things must take place, but it just hurt. And I know it's a backlash. It's going to be a backlash to that.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
there's a bright side to that also. The bright side to that is Hawaiians are returning to their roots. Hawaiians are reaching out to the ancestors as they did in times before the invasion. When people in this earth, when we see people in this earth reaching out to the ancestors and crying out to their God, and I say there for a reason, then that's when we begin to see things that are already here. That's when we begin to see the manifestation of them. The cry not to the government, the cry was to the ancestors. And that has not taken place in quite some time from what I understand. One of the issues in Maui was that, and I only heard it mentioned once, is that the water supply was lower in the areas where native Hawaiians lived because the waters had been diverted from those communities to the resorts. And that presented a problem also. So I, with you, Evelyn, feel the same way in terms of the pain of seeing things happen over and over. However, I find comfort when I see it with my eye. I remember the tears when I was in Hawaii, and I felt the energy of bondage. And I saw a sadness in the face of the people there. And I noticed that most of the people there did not even look in the eyes of the Hawaiians. They were so busy with themselves. They didn't even talk to them. And I think that definitely is an eye-opener. That definitely is one of the straws that broke the camel's back. The other thing that I also see here is that we have to see beyond the shores of America. And Hawaii is an example of seeing beyond the shores of America. Because Hawaii has never become a part of America in their hearts. Geographically, yes, but in their hearts, no. And that is the reason they would tell you that they're Hawaiian. They don't say American, they say Hawaiian. Neither have the Puerto Ricans. And we saw what crying out to the government does when we saw what happened in Puerto Rico with those hurricanes. Not just during the Trump era, but also with Biden, who I think we earmarked $60 million for them and billions for Houston, billions for Florida. So when we see those contrasts, we see in Puerto Rico that crying to the government is not the answer. let's watch and see the spiritual growth, the spiritual nature of what takes place in Hawaii as a result of the people returning to their roots. I hope that gives you some comfort and some idea of what we are experiencing and what we're going to continue to experience. If you're not connected to this landmass of America, you're just an appendage. And the appendages of this country, everything is taken away from them that's beneficial to the people who are in power in this country. And nothing is given to them when the problems rise that were created by the ones who are robbing these countries of their natural resources that stood between them as a barrier between them and disasters of this nature. I hope that helps. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Questions or comments? Anyone?
You think we may be at a place for pause?
Yes, sir. I think that's a good idea. Anyone else? I want to make sure everyone has a chance to speak. Okay. Good session today. Evelyn, are you good? Evelyn, are you on?
She is now, Ron.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Good questions. And as Pastor described, that's who we are. That's purpose and things like what we witness, the Hawaiian thing gives us opportunity to refocus. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Hope you have.
Where'd Ron go? Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
You got.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.